doesn't always make sense, but it's like just a reflection of what you've experienced. It's supposed to be about appreciating the whole journey.
Yeah.
And we went to the show to see Pronk, just like something really connected with me about that particular set. And I kind of just like looked at my girlfriend and I was like, I can't be just a fan anymore. Like, what do I have to do to get there? And then I already kind of knew that answer was like, you need to put your own music out into the world and like keep practicing, keep getting better.
Would you ever change your sound based on what's trending versus staying true to it? Just
No, I would never change my sound like just because something's popular. I always say like to anybody who asks me, it's great that you're supporting my music, but even if you weren't, like I genuinely don't care. Like this is part of my life. I need this for me. And if you would like to join me, that's great.
Nick, thank you for coming over to Tiny Table Radio.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
you
me.
being over here. Quickly, tell me how you got into DJing and producing.
Yeah, so I've been a musician my whole life. I started playing saxophone when I was 8 years old, and I've been playing guitar for maybe like, I don't know, 20 years, something like that. Just always was connected to music. And then I got a bit older, went to college, started making different friends, hearing different kinds of sounds. So I started getting into electronic music. I used to love like really heavy like bass music because I'm also a metalhead. So like that was how I saw a transition between the two. Then I just started DJing back in like, I don't know, 2010, 2011, something like that. And then as the years went on, my taste changed. I started getting more serious about this. I realized it was something that I was kind of planning my life around. And then I decided I wanted to DJ it like for real and start making music. And then right at about that time, that's when I happened to start getting into like more of like the deep and minimal kind of sounds in house.
Okay.
And then those two roads just kind of intersect, and here we are.
Remind me, where did you grow up?
So I'm from New York.
Okay.
I grew up in Nassau County, out in
Yep.
Long Island,
Yep.
a town called Massapequa.
Okay.
So it's like literally 45 minutes east of here. But I have lived in Brooklyn now for a little bit more than a decade.
What inspired the shift into producing and specifically producing house music?
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to say, but like there was one specific show I went to, I think it was about 2 years ago now. I think it was the end of 2023. It was Pronk's first time playing at Silo.
Okay.
And I love Silo. I've always can't say enough good things about that place. I've always had a great time there. I've seen so many DJs that I like now love at that venue. And we went to the show to see Pronk, and just, I don't know, I guess the stars aligned, just like something really connected with me about that particular set. And I kind of just like looked at my girlfriend and I was like, I can't be just a fan anymore. Like this isn't doing it for me the way it used to. Like I really, really want to be doing that. Like what do I have to do to get there? And then I already kind of knew that answer was like, you need to put your own music out into the world and like keep practicing, keep getting better. You can make it as just a DJ too, but if you really want to be a guy like Pronk, touring the world, getting booked to play clubs, you got to also make your own music so that people have something they can consume.
That moment where, you were obviously at Silo and you go, okay, I have to start making this music too. Were there any artists that really pulled you or pushed you to making that decision other than just that one
Yeah,
song?
oh yeah, for sure. So I another show that was at Silo 6 months earlier, I think it was like one of the first weekends that they were open, they booked Max Chapman. I've always been a big Max Chapman fan. He's just got really great bass lines and his drums are super tight. So I just like loved how he was able to kind of like get almost like a jazz element into house music. I feel like that's something I try to do a lot myself, as I try to get like that super tight skippiness, like kind of moving everywhere but the downbeat. That's always kind of been inspiring to me. Although I also make music that doesn't have swing in it like that. Also Ruse, they're my favorite. They always have been, always will be probably, even though I don't really make music too much like that. I just love their sound. I love them. They're awesome people.
What's been one of your favorite gigs or sets that you've played out so far?
So I actually, the other weekend, played with Wolf Spritzer over at Listen. And even though it was like Truth and Lies was the headliner, so it was like cool. Like we had a lot of people there. And then it was also our friend Misha's birthday. He's also an artist and producer. So him and his whole crew, they all played. We've done this a number of times before, and it's great. But it was like a more casual, I guess, setup, just because it was like all friends. It wasn't like playing to a club of people you don't know. And kind of just like that set was the first time that I had personally ever done something where we did like a 100% unreleased for like public. And so that was really special just because I had only DJ'd there for the very first, like my very first SK show was at Listen 2 years ago when it first opened. And then coming full circle, like here we are 2 years later. And now I went from like, I didn't play a single track of mine in the first time I DJ'd there because I just started producing. And now full circle 2 years later, I'm at the point now where I had enough music and like I've been happy enough with the stuff I'm making where like I could play a set with a friend and have it just be all unreleased music. So that was really cool.
You've gone by Eskay for 2 years.
Yes.
What did you go by before that? How did you settle on Eskay?
Well, it always was SK, but in college it used to be like literally DJ ES up like dash K. And I was like, what even is that? Like I didn't even have an explanation for that. SK, the way that came about is my last name is Kerrigan. And in high school, my friends had many nicknames for me, but one of them was Special K. Then I got old enough to know what that is. And I was like, yeah, I don't want my artist's identity to be like tied directly to something like that.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, how can I keep the play on words, but also not be like kind of, full degenerate to the world there. Yep. And so I thought about it. Okay, Special K is SK, ESK, and then let me just like phonetically spell out the whole thing. So ESKAY. There you go.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I told you it was an underwhelming story.
Definitely not related enough to immediately think of what your friends were calling you.
Exactly. That's the point. It's far enough away from that.
But now when you say it, I'm like, yeah, okay, I see it.
Yep. Yeah, and it never was associated with the drug. It was just the last name Kerrigan. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's funny how things work out like that.
Yeah, for real. You've been involving yourself in nightlife probably in New York for a good handful of years.
Too long.
Yeah, well, I mean, you grow up on Long Island, you come into the city to party. I get it.
Yep.
Tell me, what do you think this moment in time is compared to what you've experienced before in the scene?
So, I mean, today, it's kind of hard to answer that question because I've been in many different scenes because I've always had an evolving taste. So, like, I wouldn't compare what I do now at all to bass music just because it's just not even a fair comparison because they're two very different things. And then there was a period of time where I liked more like heavier house and more like kind of, I guess you could call it like tech house. So, like, that scene is also different. I guess to answer your question, all of the scene, I feel like in today's current environment, like there's a lot of micro genres and subsegments because I feel like people just like really want to have a sound to grab onto and protect. As far though as the club culture of the city, like now versus when I was growing up, I selfishly love that it's come down to Brooklyn because I live here and we all live here. It's a lot easier.
Yep.
Manhattan's kind of dead. Like there's not really anything, there's no like the club culture has really changed drastically the most there, and it's just moved out here now to Brooklyn where it's a little bit scrappier, it's a little bit more raw. I'm very happy with it at the moment because I love all these new venues that keep opening. Like I think that's very healthy. It's like big corporations versus small business. You have more of these like privately owned venues where they care about the shit that matters. Like Signal, the sound in there is so good.
Yep.
Silo, Refuge.
Yep.
Haven't been to Green Room yet, but I've heard good things about Green Room. They're just all investing, or Outer Heaven too. They got that analog system with the subwoofers.
In the city, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the one off. That's the one cool one.
Yeah, no, it's a great spot. Yeah.
All these venues are opening up, and like we just didn't really have that 10 years ago. It was like Webster or like the big venues like the Piers. They would do the pop-up parties, but like those aren't really venues. Those aren't really clubs. That's a venue.
Yeah.
So like now we have like real clubs that like were built for the purpose of what we do. So I think that's really cool, and it's also giving more artists an opportunity to come out and have like an opportunity to play and present themselves.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like, along with that shift, there was a direct correlation in the interest of people who went out at night of, the more bottle service nightclub experience versus let's go to a club to critique the sound quality and just vibe out to really good music.
Yep.
And, it's almost like the setups of these places have to be more intentional for that purpose.
Yes.
Of course, there's still like, there's a bar, you can buy alcohol if you want to drink, but it's less about the sparklers and bottles and more about the actual music is like the primary focus.
Exactly.
So, I think that's probably what's caused a lot of these more like smaller private places to open up, because I think a lot of the bigger nightclubs, especially in the city, rely on tables getting purchased for like revenue.
Yep, I
Right.
definitely agree with that. And I think that's also why you're getting a lot more creativity and a lot more artists, like just in general, from like the net has been cast a lot more wide.
Yeah.
You get everything. Like at Signal, I go through the programming lineup and I'm just like, I don't even know who like 80% of these people are, but
Right.
like I'm willing to bet it's going to be a good time.
Right. You can guarantee, you can trust the venue to bring good artists in if their primary
Yeah,
focus
that's a good
is
way
the
of saying
music
it.
and the sound. Yeah.
Yes, very
And
true.
like you're right. Like I see their flyers every week and I probably know 10% of the names too. But
Well, you don't even have to look at them; just go.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's also a great thing too. It's like you don't need to pull people in because it's a headlining act. You can pull people in because you know you're going to hear stuff you haven't heard before and it's going to sound great.
Yeah, and I think that's also just a better business strategy for the venue because that allows them to function for longer.
Mm,
Like it's not common for a nightclub to last more than like 5 to 10 years in the city,
right.
but things obviously could change, but I don't see Silo going anywhere anytime soon. I don't
Yeah.
see like all these new places are run by the right people that are like very experienced and professional. It's not
Yeah.
kind of just like a, let's throw this together. Like Webster Hall, good.
Yeah.
God bless. Had so many good nights there with my best
Sure.
friends, but like
Sure.
that place was just like it was just a frenzy all the time. Like
Yeah.
it was just so much crazy shit was
Like
going
kind
on
of
there. No shit, it closed.
it kind of reminded me of like a massive version of like a frat house basement.
Yeah, there you go. That's actually a great way of putting it. And like the party there was definitely more like this is where you go to get fucked up and
Mm,
do drugs. It wasn't like this is where you're gonna go to hear this kind of music.
yeah, for
And I
sure.
think that has also been an important thing in the transition is like
Yeah.
to your point earlier, that's why these clubs have these strong identities because they're doing all of those things that maybe clubs and venues were not doing as much in the previous decade and before that.
Yeah. So where do you think it's headed? Do you think like the clubs that are around now, you sounds like you're betting on them sticking around for a while, but what do you think is kind of the next evolution?
I mean, that's a really good question. It's probably one I should have a deeper thought on as somebody who's also entering the race. But like, I kind of just really content with like the momentum that it has now, and I hope it'll continue to go in this direction. Because the other thing is a lot of like taking a look at like 10 years ago, maybe like the type of music that was running these bigger parties was like also the type of stuff that like it was more about the party than the music. So like
Mm,
when that happens, you have a shorter shelf life because those people are not going to keep coming 10 years later. They're eventually going to, they're going to grow up, they're going to get married, they're going to get
yeah.
a good job and like they're not going to do drugs anymore. So like when that stops,
Most
like
of them.
that's bad for the promoter though because they
Yeah.
still have a business to run and they have to
Right.
book talent and get people to come to these parties. So I feel like the identity with music now is a lot stronger than it used to be, maybe
Mm,
more like it was back in the 90s where like again it didn't really matter like even who was DJing, you just knew you were going to go to this place to have an experience and it was going to be real.
mm,
Like the Tunnel or like the Sound Factory, Limelight,
mhm,
all those places back
mhm.
in the day. That's what made it genuinely super cool places to go because there was just so much of that like kind of implicit culture ingrained in it. It wasn't so much just about like the spectacle or I mean, yeah, people were taking drugs, but like it wasn't like that was kind of secondary to the actual vibe of what was
Sure.
happening. And
Yeah.
I granted I was only, single digit age in those years. I didn't get to experience them, but I'd like to think that what we're doing now is a modern approach in some ways to like those kind of foundations that
Yeah.
were laid back then.
Yeah, I think based on, what we do have video evidence of, it feels like the clubs are more aligned to what it was like in the 90s
Mhm.
underground scene now, or at least trying to bring a similar
The venues are trying and
energy
they're
back.
getting
Yeah.
they're getting there. I mean, some promoters too, like the
Hmm.
no phone policy. I definitely think I think we dwell on it a little bit too much, but like I also think that it's very important, like to just that's one piece of like the venue trying to tell you connect with the culture in this place.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
I don't care if you take like a couple of pictures or
Right.
one video, but you have to do it in moderation. Like you cannot
Yeah.
be there all night because you're just not. I mean, not even not that it's just annoying. It's also like you're not connecting with the culture of this event. Like
For sure.
go meet somebody you've never talked to in your life and like let them be a part of your life now. Like that's
Yeah.
like kind of why we do this, right?
Or just like don't talk on the dance floor, whether it's texting or,
Yeah, or if you're gonna have like a real conversation,
pull
like
off
go to
to
the
the side.
smoking area
Yeah.
or go
Yeah.
to the bar or something. Cause like now
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
just shouting at each other and it's ineffective anyway.
Correct.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah. Obviously part of the whole process of getting booked at a lot of places, regardless of how immersed in the culture these venues are, is you have to have some level of brand presence, right? Hello, Parker, there you are.
Ooh, thank you.
Would you ever, and part of having a brand presence obviously is social media.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
and part of using social media is exposing people to your sound. So would you ever change your sound based on what's trending versus staying true to it just and staying?
Zero chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would never. I definitely, with that comment, I will say I have a goal for this year that I would really like to develop my social media strategy, just because, like, looking at it from the other side is the world is so big and like we are all so connected these days that like you are not taking advantage of like being able to advance a career quicker and more effectively, actually connect to more people, but like you're just not it's so it's so competitive, it's so saturated that like you have to stand out. And if you're not doing something to make yourself stand out, then like how are you ever going to get your career off the ground? So like
Right.
I do need to remember that like that piece is there and it's very important. But no, I would never change my sound like just because something's popular. I always say like to anybody who asks me, like, it's great that you're supporting my music, but even if you weren't, like, I genuinely don't care. Like, this
Yeah.
is part of my life. I need this for me. And if you would like to join me, that's great too.
Yeah.
Would
Oh
you like to
my.
join?
I think there is a way to be able to approach social media without, having to chase the algorithms too. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's like really finding that balance, because eventually the people who are interested in who you are, as long as you actually stay true to who you are, they'll find
Right.
you. They'll
Yeah.
find you,
And
and like not focusing on like going viral and like, all that stuff.
a good piece of advice that a mentor gave me was like, you need to find a way to do social media and not be a gimmick.
Right.
He's like, because gimmicks don't last. So like someone that I love on social media is Ranger Trucko. Like I think I'm like a kind of silly person. He's like a really silly person, but like that's just actually his personality.
Right.
And like in that way of doing it, it doesn't take away from what's important, which is like continuing to build his brand and his
Mhm.
music and like the range label and stuff like that. But it's also not seen as much of a task or like a stressor because you're kind of just showing people how you function in your day-to-day life, and like those silly moments are the fun ones to share. So yeah, I definitely want to try to integrate that into like what I'm doing a little bit more. I feel like I look at my social media page and I'm like, A, it's boring, and B, it's too serious. Like I'm not a serious person.
Going along with what your mentor said, like if somebody were to find you and follow you on social media and then met you in person, you would want to be the same kind of thing, right?
Yes, I
Right.
highly
So
agree with that.
yeah. So let's go to the real world and off of social media again here. But what do you think is the most important piece of club etiquette that people need to hear?
Oh man, there's many. However, I would say the main one is that like right now we're having like this little bit of a renaissance of nightlife in New York City, if you will. Like, and especially in Brooklyn with all these new clubs that are opening. And like just when you're on the dance floor, like don't try to be like a lot of people kind of I feel like want to feel like they're exclusive or like kind of like, like they kind of want to have like their status of like, they'll form their little group and then like you're cut off. That's one zone of the dance floor. Now there's this other one. Just remember that like when you're going out, the whole point of doing this is to go out and meet people and to like interact with one another. That's how house music becomes therapeutic. That's part of the reason why it was created. Is to make sure that you're really indulging in that. Like I don't find a part going to a party was successful if it's like all I did was talk to my three friends and like just stood in one place all night. Because when you move around the dance floor and try to move to other places to interact with people, you get stuck in between everybody and it's a pain in the ass. And you're the rude person asking to move through at a rave. Oh my God. And then the other thing is like you're just not getting the full experience of it.
Mhm.
Like so I just encourage anybody who watches this, just, go make a new friend. Like, don't forget about like why we do this. Cause I noticed that that's not happening a lot as much lately. And I don't know what the reason is, but like, the DJ looking out into the crowd, that's like a lot less fun for me. Like, I want to
Sure.
see people interacting and just like making a face like, oh, this song is great. And it's like like a ridiculous song. Like, it makes no sense, but that's the whole point. It's not supposed to make sense. It's just kind of supposed to happen.
Any other house music hot takes on your mind?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I could keep you here all day.
All right, what's the hottest of them all?
Hot takes in dance music. Oh man, that's such a good question. I guess one of them is that like as of recently, you're seeing a lot of like you're seeing like the rebirth of the edit or the
Mm,
bootleg, and
mm,
that's great and everything. Like do what you want to do for your DJ sets. And if you're making those like tools and edits, like awesome. But like we need to be more selective about what songs we're doing this with. Like I love like, we're having again the Renaissance theme, like, we're kind of bringing back the old school. Like let's also bring back some more old school artists like for these things, let's not be like remixing Drake all the time. Let's like go find like some great vinyl in the store, or like I don't know, maybe you're a 90s R&B buff or something. Like
Yeah.
let's hear more of that.
Nice.
And let's hear more New York City. Like let's hear like some like old school, like the rappers from back in the 80s, like some Tribe or Nas, or like however you want, or maybe a rapper nobody even knows about, which is great for when you try to get a label, record sign. That might help with the copyright situation.
It sure would.
Or
yeah.
like, we had a great R&B scene in the 90s too. Just so
Mhm.
many great artists. Like bring more of that back into the fold, right? Like that's this should also be a celebration of New York City.
Let's switch into your sound for a minute here. You mentioned to me that your primary goal with crafting your sound is, and I'm quoting what you wrote here,
Mhm.
trying to find ways to include all of the previous stops on my musical journey, jazz, classical, heavy rock, even bass music, and integrate that into a deep, groovy, and sometimes up-tempo style. So how are you approaching that creatively?
Yeah, so it's very random. I
Nice.
genuinely like one thing I do differently now that I've seen enough other producers and like their workflow is I am definitely a lot less organized than the average person. And like I understand I need to work on it. It's definitely on my to-do list just to save myself time on like finding samples and things that like are just kind of time sucks. But like I kind of just like build one piece at a time and just like literally just like kind of try to close my eyes and be like, where should this go next? And then just start like just jumping around. So like what I've been making a lot lately that you'll hear probably coming like, in the coming years is like I've been getting a lot more into those super skippy, jazzy kind of grooves, but then also using really heavy bass lines. Like I love like FM basses and like PD basses, like things that are super harmonic and crunchy. And like they just have big impact. Like I love like the like Josh Butler kind of style basses, or like even like UKG style basses, like super wobbly roads. I love all that stuff. So then I like try to think of that's like the metal part of my life that existed. Then like the drums and the skippiness and some of like the groove related stuff. That's like the jazz part of my life from when I was playing saxophone growing up. And then the vocal piece, that's probably the most random one because I think I connect to vocals the least out of any part of music. Just I've always been an instrument guy. But like I love like little like spoken ad libs and like old school hip hop. Like I love A Tribe Called Quest. I have a number of things I'm working on where I pepper little pieces in.
Nice.
So like that's what I mean about the previous stops on the journey is like I don't ever like listen to someone and say I want to try to sound like this person. I definitely like, hear a cool kick drum pattern, or I'll hear like a cool like call and response pattern. I'm like, yeah, let me do that my own way. But like that's a cool tidbit. But like pure influence, what am I writing my music based on? It's like those things I just described. And like that's why I have all of these different elements sometimes in my songs where like it doesn't always make sense, but it's like just a reflection of what you've experienced. It's supposed to be about appreciating the whole journey.
Yeah, for sure. And I
Don't
think,
change, like you were saying earlier. Would you ever change your sound to get popular? Like, no, that's why I do it this way because
yeah,
like it's just not fun if I'm not doing this.
sure. Let's not
It's not
authentically
me.
you. Yeah, exactly. But I think that's also an advantage that you've had so many different kind of not only like interests in different styles and genres, but actually, musically you've been a part of them too. So, would you say that that is an advantageous to somebody who's learning production?
Well, like the previous experience in writing music, like knowing how to
Yeah,
like
or
play
like
guitar and like write music on a staff or like kind of stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yes and no. I I use it to my advantage. However, if you don't have that experience, it absolutely should not hurt you because there's so many technologies and so many things you can do to like really accelerate like the music theory process, or like the making a synth patch, or like there's presets and all these things, and like
Hmm.
there's all these how-to videos. They didn't exist 15 to 20 years ago. So like if you didn't play an instrument growing up, don't let that stop you
Yeah.
from trying to produce music or be a DJ. It's not as centric to this as it is in other things. Like if you're going to be an opera singer or a classical violin player, like yeah, you better be doing that like by the rules and be really damn good at it.
Hmm.
Electronic music is not really like that.
Do you use many analog instruments in your productions now?
So I don't use any like analog hardware per se because getting it, like buying those synths. Like if you wanted to buy
Yeah,
like a
it's
Jupiter
expensive.
8, it's
Yeah.
like $25,000 for
Yeah.
using.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the average price on eBay. I have looked.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to spend that. And I think like 99 out of 100 producers are going to say the same thing.
Sure.
However, I do love the VST emulations of a lot of the analog synthesizers. Like, for example, everybody loves Serum. I use it. I do. I'm not gonna say I don't. Like, there's sometimes you're like, oh, great, it worked. Like, it saved you so much time. But like that synth is just so digital and like everything is modulation, modulation. Let me have like 95 LFOs modulating each other. I feel like you're just like lost in the sauce at that point. You're forgetting to just like write music as opposed to making like the coolest sound design. And that's why I love analog synthesizers, because like they're basic. You have a cutoff, you have like a couple of LFOs, you have reverb and delay. Like that's really all you need. Everything else you can do with your processing chain and like blah blah blah
For
blah blah
sure.
blah blah. I use Blue 3 all the time, which I learned about from watching Coulter's videos. It's just so good. Like that's the best preset library out there. The Korg M1, everybody loves the Korg M1. Can't resist a good M1. And then I use a lot of Yuhi stuff, which like I
Mm-hmm.
use like Basil, Diva.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting into Hive 2. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love like just like those crunchier, warmer sounds.
Mm-hmm.
And when you use those synths, you have to add less on the back end, which is always good for your projects.
Yeah.
Less to manage.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned a couple of artists there. Any producers who have really caught your ear lately that you're like, oh, I want to
Yes.
pick this off of them.
Yes, absolutely. So I have recently found that I have been touching into more of like you might not hear as much of it today. Like these are new projects that I'm starting, but I'm getting more in touch with my darker side.
Okay.
And that's because I really love the kind of sounds that you get from people like Danny Snowden or like Watchers, like that. Just like it's just unsettling tension, but the call and response is amazing. Like one synth is positioned perfectly like in the left side of the stereo field, and it's answering something in the back right of the mix, and then boom, like the melody and the bass lines coming down the middle, and there's all this movement, and it just feels like there's a conversation between the instruments. So like I love producers that get that right, and I'm like really working hard to try to be better about that myself.
Nice.
Because like that's just like my number one source of inspiration. Melodic, like if the melodic structure of a song for me needs to make sense above everything else.
Yeah, and when you are producing, you mentioned off camera that you do start with melody. Most people start with the groove or the bass line or the drums, but you're a melody first guy.
I am. However, I do just want to say as a disclaimer, it's totally cool if you do go from the bottom up. Like whatever
There's no
you do,
one right way.
there is no one answer to it.
For
So
sure.
however you get there, as long as it's a good record at the end of the process, it really doesn't matter. For me, I get lost too easily going that way. I always need to know like how many, like I try to write, you're not going to have all of them off the bat, but I try to come up with like a main melody, a main harmonic piece, couple of little ad libs, and then I'll run that in the session view and just start throwing drums in behind it to see if it makes sense. Once I get that signal that this can be something, then I'll go right over to arrangement and start building the track out. But I'm always writing like a synth line, or if there's going to be a sung vocal, I think that inserting a sung vocal after the fact is probably the hardest thing you can do. And it's probably the most deterring to you finishing your song. If you know that's the route you want to go, get that first. Try to think of something. Maybe you're working with a vocalist, or maybe you have a specific song in mind, whatever the answer is. Build a melody around that. Like build some melodies around those vocal pieces and try chopping it up. Try maybe using the whole thing, like whatever it is that you want to do. And then once you get that one piece that clicks with it, it just spills after that. You're like, oh, okay, now I know how the bass line needs to sound. Now I know how the drums are going to complement this bouncy or this loose or whatever. So like for me, my brain clicks in that direction. But again, there's nothing wrong with going the opposite direction.
What's one either piece of hardware or plugin that you cannot live without when you produce?
Yes, I love answering this question. I love crunchy, dark, warm, like all like that kind of stuff. I use Decimort on almost everything I can put it on, which is like a great bit crusher. Or I like to use the term reverse saturation, which I don't know if that's technically correct. I'm just being an asshole, but it just adds so much flavor to the tone of what you're doing, whether it's drums or whether it's bass.
Okay.
Like I use it on bass lines all the time to get like that extra ring at the end that helps it stand out in the mix a little bit more. So like that's like one I'm always looking to use it no matter what. And then as far as like gear, I'm pretty in the box, but I do have a Keylab 49. It's like the Arturia keyboard.
Hmm. Hmm.
That thing works so good with all of the Arturia emulations that I use, like the Prophet VS. I love that synthesizer. Jupiter 8, Juno 106, like any or DX7. I'm starting to get into that one too.
Okay.
All that stuff works with the controller perfectly, so you don't have to like remap a controller, which
Yeah.
like I'm terrible at that. So I love that I can just turn a knob and that's the cutoff, and then turn the other one, that's
Yeah.
the timbre.
It's
Like
already built in.
it's
It's
already
part of
done
the
for me. Like
ecosystem.
I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it. And then my cord bot earlier, I was showing you earlier. I
Yeah.
love that thing.
Fits in the backpack.
Fits in the backpack. It's just you press a button, boom, MIDI shoots right into your
Like a cheat
software.
code for you, huh?
It's so easy to write melodies with that thing.
That's amazing. I might have to check that thing out,
Yeah, they're
honestly.
not that expensive either. They're like you can get a used one for like $300.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll last.
Yeah.
Like it's
Durability is worth it, worth the
yeah.
price.
Oh,
for
durability is always worth the price of
Sure.
gear.
For sure. What is one non-music essential that you always bring to gigs, or potentially just keep in your studio?
Weed. I'm not kidding. That is like a centerpiece to my process. I have like really bad ADHD, and I take medication for it. And sometimes I get in the studio and I feel too hyper, too like almost strung out a little bit. So if I just like smoke a joint and take a couple deep breaths and just kind of be like, all right, what do I want to do right now? Just get like the extra noise out.
Mhm.
Then I can lock in and I can like really focus on my projects. And
Nice.
when I'm DJing too, it makes me loosen up a lot more.
Sure.
Sometimes I feel like I don't get nervous, but I feel like I have like something to accomplish, and like the accomplishment is not hitting your personal goals. It's like, like, oh, I really wanted to get this song in, or I really wanted to get like these cuts or whatever. No, that's you're losing sight of what the goal is. The goal is to play the right records to keep the party moving and for
Mhm.
people to enjoy and receive your sound well. That's it. It doesn't matter how you get there.
Any particular strain that works best for you during those moments?
I mean, it's so hard because like there's so many different kinds of like strains now. Like there's
Yeah.
no such thing as a pure indica or a pure sativa anymore. Everything is somewhere as a hybrid. Everything's been crossbred and so
Mhm.
forth. I will definitely save the heavier indica ones for after the studio session because I'll just get too tired.
Fair.
Like I love like a good Blue Dream or like a good I like a good Skittles strain or like a Runts, like just something like kind of like right down the middle where I'm like relaxed, but also my brain is still functioning well. Um, yeah, just don't like to get too tired. That's all.
Fair. Fair. Say we had a time machine and you and I today could travel back and go talk to Nick, 8-year-old Nick, when he first started playing music.
Oh, this is a deep question. Okay.
What is, we got to balance it out with the weed,
Right,
So,
right.
what is, if you could only had time to say one sentence to 8-year-old Nick, what would it be?
Don't let anyone ever tell you that music isn't important.
All right.
That's a really important one to me because well, not to get too deep or anything, but
Please
like
do.
I have always loved music. It's always been an outward facing part of my personality and my identity as a person. And a lot of people kind of just tried to discourage me from in pursuing it because like my mom and dad were kind of scared, like, oh, you want to be a musician, how are you ever going to make money, or blah blah blah. They grew up in a different time when things were hard and like you kind of had to pick a job and do it or else you'd be out on the street. So like I get where they're coming from, but I just think it's so important today, like with our next generations. Like music is so important and like it should always be nourished. And I get it, like you want your kids to have a job and like not be like in struggles at times, but like you should be encouraging them really to have both if that's what's required. Music should just never be put in the backseat to something else. It's just as important as going to school to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. Like it's something that people need, and a true artist is not getting to be themselves if they don't get to express that, and it's incredibly painful to live with that.
Yeah.
So 8-year-old Nick, keep playing your saxophone, keep playing your guitar, don't take any breaks. Like it's really important. Just like keep doing it because it'll never go away.
What's been one of the bigger challenges you faced since you've started this house music journey in particular, the last couple of years, more recently?
Just I guess two things that I feel like every producer is facing these same issues, but like just getting noticed because like so many people want to do this, and like to be fair, there's a lot of people who are good at this and there's a lot of good sounds out there. So like it's just making yourself stand out, but I feel like that's a mutual stress and grievance that we all have is just like, oh, like how I love this track. Why isn't it getting noticed? And it's like, it's okay. Just like keep doing it.
Mm.
Your day will come. Like if you're making good music, somebody will see it eventually. Just remember you're doing it because it makes you happy. Not so much that you're looking to seek an end out of it.
Hmm.
Just finding the way to schedule time, I guess, to get it done. Like, we all have day jobs. Like I have a full-time day job, 40 hours a week on top of doing this. And then I also have a girlfriend and my family at home that I got to make time for. So
Your
it's
two
like,
dogs.
and the two dogs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like finding time to make all of this stuff work. That is incredibly stressful for me. Especially, the ADHD thing. I'm like not great at time management to begin with. So like now you want to have two careers and have a family and have this and that and the other thing. Like it is a lot to chew on. I
Yeah.
think for everybody though, whether you're neurodivergent or not, like I think it's just a lot to ask of people in today's generation.
Sure.
So it's just really trying to find those gaps to be able to like find like commit to those gaps and then actually fill them with the things that you want to do.
Yeah. Have you found kind of like a solve for that for you, or are you just still like trying to figure it out?
I'm definitely getting a lot better than I was like since I started. I went back to an old job a couple of months ago, and because that is not work from home and I have the separation, so when I leave the office I'm definitely not working again when I get home.
Yeah.
It's been way easier for me to come home, take an hour to like catch up with my girlfriend, smoke a joint, cook some food, just like decompress for a minute. And then I have enough energy to go for like 3 more hours
Yeah.
and get work done in the studio. So I'm getting in the studio now every week for a minimum of like 15 hours,
Amazing.
which is
Yeah.
great. Like I was not doing that
That's
a
a
year
lot. I
ago.
mean, that's a lot.
Well, then on the weekends too, obviously I try to
Sure.
spend even more time, but like during the work week, I'm happy with getting 15 right now. Like
Yeah.
that's my upper limit at the moment. And maybe it'll grow higher, but I will take that because a year ago, some weeks it was 0.
Yeah.
And that's you're just not going to get anywhere if you don't put the time in.
For sure. And like, consistently staying at, some baseline is extremely helpful to continue making that progress. But
I try to say a half hour minimum a day. Like if it's a really busy work day and I'm fucking tired and like, or like maybe my girlfriend had a rough day and like she just wants to hang out. I mean, like whatever the situation may be. As long as you do it every day, the
Yep.
muscle will not get weaker.
Right. Just
You
like
have to
working
keep
out.
working,
Yep.
just like working out.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I found that, if I go somewhere to work, I'm usually more productive when I'm there, and then I can switch off easier and come back and be more present for other stuff.
Very much
for
agree
sure.
with that.
Even though I could work anywhere, and I typically work from home. So, but yeah, I think just having that separation is really, really helpful.
For me as a human being, it's necessary because I used to have a hybrid job where I worked from home, and when I worked from home, I never stopped working because there was no separation.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll just eat for 10 minutes and then go back to work. No,
Right.
take your lunch hour.
Those
Like,
boundaries kind of just fade.
they fade very quickly.
Yeah.
And like maybe other people are different. For me personally, like those lines dissolved almost instantly.
Yeah.
So like that's just not going to work for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, everyone's a little different with that for sure.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about some of your tracks that you have coming out soon.
Sure.
You sent me a few over, and all of them were awesome, and I can definitely hear, these musical elements in them that really give, like, they're exciting to listen to. There's so much house music that obviously the consistency of it, the steadiness of it, the repetition of it is fundamental, but you add so much other variety. I can see you hear you like incorporating these elements from your background a lot. So that's coming out, at least in
Good.
my
I'm glad
ears.
that's coming through. Because sometimes I think it's like spaghetti on the wall, but
Yeah,
like
sometimes, right? But I mean, these are, at least I would presume that the ones that you sent over are relatively like polished, finished.
Yes,
right?
those are all fine.
Yeah. So, and of the three, the one I liked the most out of all three of those was your collab with Azur. It's "Talk to Me." Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah. Actually, it's funny going back to your previous question about like the struggles and finding the time management thing. He is a fellow ADHDer who is just so organized, and like he has such a good time management strategy. Aaron, you should start selling books on that shit. Like seriously, he's got it all buttoned up, and he like really puts the time and the effort in. So like he is seeing results as a product of that. That track was probably the most aggravating track I've ever made in my life, because it was the first time that like we really like got somewhere on a collab, and like it was a little bit of sizing each other up, seeing how far you could go with the other one. But like we both like really had specific things that we cared about. And I think in the end, we were able to meet in the middle and get those things expressed properly. And it's a great track. I'm glad that you like that one the most, because that is by far the most popular one in my folder right now.
Nice.
It's got the most support on it. It's got the most interest on it. So we'll see what happens with that later this year. Aaron and I are still writing some other music too.
Awesome.
So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, but definitely probably the most I've learned from a collab process.
Nice. Are there anything else that you have coming out that, you are collaborating with? And do you find that when you collab, you're kind of almost doing the same things regardless of who it is, or do you find yourself doing like different aspects or elements
They're all completely different.
Okay.
It's like dating someone. Like
Okay.
every partner you go on a date with is going to be is ideally going to be different from the last one.
Yeah.
And like, because you find out you have different strengths and different weaknesses, and like sometimes, like for example, I would say one thing like with me and Azor is we are both very like type A, high energy, like always trying to move fast, and like sometimes we need to remember to stop and like I guess like stop to observe, or like stop to like kind of like lock in on certain things, because it's a little bit more like creative and random. But then like I'll sit and I'll have a session with somebody like Wolf Spritzer where it's like clear decisions lined out, like that's how he works, and like great, like I'm more than happy to like hop on that train and do that.
Cool.
Or I have another partner in Japan, her name is Saeri. She like, we're only on Zoom because like she's on the other side of the world, so there's only so much that we can do. So we work asynchronously quite a bit, and then when we get together, we kind of run through the different things that we want out of the track and kind of just try to accommodate that way. I'm very excited. I'm gonna have more music coming with her. I'm gonna play one of her songs, or one of our songs in my set today. And then we have a couple more tracks that we're working on, which like that's gonna be like a very much a step in a new direction and a new sound.
Nice. I'm excited. Any other releases, gigs, projects you want to share that's coming up soon?
Well, I guess I could share. I don't know if this is going to air in time, but Thursday to February 19th, me, Azor, Wolf Spritzer, Claudio, Jen Pop, and our friend Naaman as well. The six of us are like loosely a collective. And we are doing a takeover at Mad Radio.
Yeah.
We're going to be playing a lot of the music that we're making together. Almost all of us have worked with each other in some capacity, some more than others. But we're kind of just like trying to create this new sound. We all kind of believe that there is like a gap in the current sound market in New York City for like what we do. More deep, soulful, more melodic oriented, more like kind of old school style, more New York City old school style. So like we feel like there's an opportunity for us to try to present that sound the right way. So we've all been like working really hard together. So
Awesome.
That's going to be our first time kind of doing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
This will almost absolutely have aired after that happened. So you can tell everyone how awesome it is now, because it's going to be
a great party. You guys should all be there.
Yeah, I love popping by Mad Radio too. That's a fun
Yeah,
spot.
they did a really nice job with the place, and I've noticed I've been there a handful of times now. It kind of is becoming an industry hangout.
Yeah.
Every time I go there, I've like kind of noticed like I went there a few weeks ago, and like Vitesse was playing the next night, and he was just like there with his girlfriend hanging out. And you see like I've seen some promoters in there and stuff. So it's just a great place too if you're like a newly curious DJ or producer, like go there and hang out and just talk to people.
Yeah.
Because like you need to meet those kinds of people to do this.
Yeah, 100%. And not to stay on this topic too long, but showing up and showing face and making those connections and just being around and not really forcing it, just like being a part of the culture, being a part of the community.
That is a big part of my personal mantra. It's like you got to show up.
That is a recurring theme in these conversations that I've had that I've noticed, and it's very true.
You can't ask somebody for support if you're not willing to give it.
Correct.
It's simple as that.
Correct. Absolutely. Nick, it has been a pleasure to chat with you. I have a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
First, where can our listeners follow you, stay up to date on what you're up to?
Yeah, so I mean, Instagram page is probably the best place for that. I have, my link in my bio that'll connect to like Spotify and Beatport and stuff. I have a couple of releases that are going to come later this year, so you'll see more information about that as we go further into the year. And then it'll also be in that link tree, the SoundCloud. I'm in the process of like trying to figure out how to get more content onto there, because I usually just use it like private links to share unreleased stuff. So yeah, just stay tuned on my Instagram page. That is kind of like the portal to anything else I may have going on.
Cool.
I'm sure you'll be sharing those details. So.
Yep, we will. Absolutely. They'll all be linked in the descriptions there. And then we started to ask all of our guests. Well, it's not really a question. It's more of a fill in this blank for me here. So
Okay.
I have a sentence for you. I want you to finish. To me, house music is.
Oh, that's a good one. Life. I mean, really, like it's involved in everything that I do. I joke with like my girlfriend and even my parents when they ask me, I'm like, I can't listen to music like a normal person anymore. Like I'm just constantly like admiring different like specific elements, like, oh, this mix is so good, or like, oh, that sound and like that instrument is so good. Just like let it consume you. Like if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and your life will be a lot happier if you do that.
Nick, thank you for coming over.
Oh yeah,
Great
man.
chat.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thanks for listening to that latest interview on Tiny Table Radio. It would help a lot if you hit that subscribe button now so I can bring on more guests and keep this show going. So hit that subscribe button now, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy the set.